I get my inspiration from very common and ordinary people. From example, Constance Jiles, the wife of the plumber, the family that runs Rooter Pros Plumbing in Whitfield County. She is a woman who I would say is a marvel of efficiency, a marvel of indignation in assembling the evidence against her. And we're going to hear in a minute how it was she was arrested and what the issue is in the claims made against her by a Whitfield County deputy, Lieutenant Lowry, and arrested in her home after she had called 911 on two men who were not on just on her property, but in her house, as her husband was upstairs just getting out of the shower. Another male relative was outside doing some pressure washing on a driveway, and here two men come, and this frightened mother with a house full of female children. She's the mother of six children, 6 girls, and another young woman there whom she says she plans to adopt. So we have an encounter with 911 call, and it is Constance Jiles that is arrested. And by the looks of it, from at this distance, we're in Chattanooga here on the David Tula Show, and she is south of the border in Georgia. It looks like she's been charged with willful obstruction of process, because she didn't show the proper obeisance. Now that at least it could be the defense that she's making, because there seems to be, from what I can tell, not real probable cause to arrest her, though there's evidence coming to me from her, and she is making, I would say, a heroic effort up front and on the spot to get all the evidence against her in her dealings with the Whitfield County District Attorney's Office and the Whitfield County Sheriff Scott Chitwood, whose deputy was very offended by Constance's comments in her own house about the deputy there trying to sort out the story. This is David Toulis, and Constance, you're live here with my listener. Tell my listener just quickly, in case he missed what happened to you, what your story is.
On July 15th at approximately 9:13 p.m., I had called 911 due to 2 male intruders in my home. My 2 youngest ones were downstairs playing and came running upstairs. Mama, there's 2 guys in our home. I ran downstairs, opened the garage door, and seen these 2 men standing inside my home, mind you, around my 4 walls. And I politely asked them at the time, "What are you here for? What is your name? What can I help you with?" Every time that I tried to ask them anything, it was, "We don't have to speak to you." My children, grown children, Monica and Kayla, asked the same question. They were told the same thing. "We don't have to talk to you." To me, that's not acceptable. No one at all should stand for that. That's your home. That's your domain. That's your safe haven. Protect what's yours, because no one else is going to do it.
Did these men leave?
No, they didn't. After a few times of telling them to leave, I proceeded to close my garage door. One of the gentlemen stepped back away from the garage door, but still in the vicinity by it. And then the other one stepped forward more into the garage door, and I threatened him that I was going to blow his brains out if he didn't get the hell out of my garage. Plain and simple. So he started laughing and said he had a right to be there. I said, "Not in my home, you don't." So he kicked something in my garage. It was like a heater/fan, which in fact resulted in my 8-year-old's toe getting cut and bleeding. I pushed him at that point out of my garage on the other side, and he turned around and started laughing, and then proceeded to walk up the hill and got in their truck.
And why were these men there?
Well, at the time, I had no clue. That's what I was trying to investigate and find out, and all they had to do was speak of that, and this wouldn't have ever happened, but they chose not to do that. So come to find out, these guys were there to repo my husband's motorcycle that he was in, had just gotten dismissed out of the state of Tennessee with his bankruptcy and was refiling in the state of Georgia due to his attorney suggesting that. That is something that I am not in. I'm not in that. I'm not in the mixture of that. That's his doing. But my personal opinion, whoever comes into my home, I have a right to ask questions and I have a right to demand answers.
You made a mistake in calling 911, Constance Jiles?
You know, after all of the evidence and all of the hard work and hours that I have poured into this, I would say absolutely. 911 is a joke. It might be favorable for someone who's had a automobile accident or something to that effect. But when it comes to intruders in your home or someone trying to break into your home, that is the worst mistake I have ever made in my 40 years of law.
Well, what happened with the lieutenant?
I'm sorry?
What happened with Lieutenant Lowry, the well-experienced veteran deputy in the Whitfield County Sheriff's Department?
Oh, yeah. She's got 18 years of being a law enforcement officer from what her statement is, and that she does this all the time to people, and that she has never had any problems, and she's not going to stop doing what she's doing. But I'm here to let everybody know in Whitfield County, not just do I have the recording from what took place, and people can agree to disagree, and that's perfectly fine. But what the bottom line is it's just not just about me. This is about everybody all around our neighboring states, Whitfield County residents. I have on record Captain Clay Pangle, CLAY, dated 8/7/18 with the Whitfield County Sheriff's Department, telling me that they can do whatever they want to do. They can come into one's home whenever they choose to for any given reason without any proper documentation. And I'm here to stand up for everybody, we the people. This is not acceptable. They do not pay my bills. They do not pay my mortgage. They do not do shit for me. This is not acceptable, and we all need to stand together.
Right. Please watch your language. Go ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I'm just aggravated.
Well, when I looked at the arrest report, I'm trying to find what it is, how the officer in this report makes evil of your actions enough to arrest you. And here's the sentence, and the listener can decide for himself or herself whether this is grounds for a criminal accusation of willful obstruction. And it says, Mr. Goss got up from a seated position and came toward Lieutenant Lowry, advising or saying that she did not like the way this is a reference to you. Is that right, Constance? She did not like the way she was being spoken to and asked if Lieutenant Lowry had a warrant. The female then began to close the garage door. That's you. And Lieutenant Lowry attempted to take the female, that's you, into custody. Now, okay, so what you did wrong was you said you did not like the way you were being spoken to, and you asked if that lieutenant had a warrant. But you had called. Why would you ask if that lieutenant has a warrant if you're the one who called 911, Constance?
Because she, in fact, kept on telling me, you're going to talk to me. You're going to talk to me, demanding me to talk to her. And my right is I don't have to talk to anybody. I don't have to. If I choose not to talk to somebody, I do not have to. Nobody does. That's your right. So and even for her to go ahead.
Well, so even though you called them, it seems like what happened is you called needing help, and suddenly the situation turns against you. And at that point, you are suddenly thinking you're a defendant because she's demanding information. She's demanding details from you. Is that what happened? Is that why you somehow felt that the situation was turning from you as victim to you as defendant?
Absolutely. Her demeanor could have been 100% better when she spoke to me. She didn't say, what's the problem to the intruders. She just asked them what's going on. What's going on? But to my family and I, it was, what's the problem? Well, you would know what the problem is because I called 911 and gave a description of what's going on. So she failed to do her job there. Then her demanding that I speak to her, that's a strike against her because I have a right to decline to speak to anybody. And then she came into my home, the same area that the intruders were in, inside my safe haven, my domain, and grabbed my arm
your
saying,
castle.
okay, lady, come on, lady, and throws me to the ground. That's not okay.
Did you have physical injuries from your being thrown down or being handcuffed, Constance Jiles?
I did. I had a busted knee, a busted elbow, bruises out the yin yang, all over my wrist, my arms, my outer thigh. I have an injury to my left shoulder from them pulling on me. I mean, it should have never happened.
Well, these clearly are very courageous. These are very clearly courageous officers, and they sort of know that the world belongs to them. And what I want the listener just to think about as you my listener, hear Constance Jiles' story. She's the wife of the plumber, mother of 6 children, and had a house full of children here. And though there were 2 men on the premises, she I would say made the mistake of calling 911 for help with these men suddenly before her in her house after dark. This is after dark, and so the officers then show up on the scene. And there's a confrontation. Now, what I want the listener to hear next, Constance, is what you've done to get the evidence against you. And I think it's important for you to explain why you think that's important, what you're looking for, why you're looking for it, and why you're not just waiting for the hearing. I mean, why don't you just wait for the hearing to begin when you can plead guilty or plead not guilty? Why not just wait for all the work to begin for that hearing?
The reason I want all the documentation and the evidence that they've got supposedly against me is because, number one, they are the ones that put these charges against me. I did not go and put charges against myself. Number two, I have a right to due process. I have a right to build my defense case against these people that claim that they are above the law. I have been to the sheriff's department on 8/6 at 9 a.m., on 8/7 around 9:30, the DA's office on 8/7, and again on 8/8 and on 8/9, requesting and demanding information to this evidence that they supposedly have that they've charged me with. I have rights to that, and they keep telling me, no, I don't. I have on recorder also that one of the ladies who answers the phone at the DA's office was looking into the computer system and said that there is no evidence. But yet they want to meet with me Friday morning, next Friday, a week from today. For what reason, I have no idea, but it's going to be the investigator as well as the district attorney, Christina, and I'm going to spell her last name, Antals, at 9 a.m. next Friday. I have reached out to the Post of Georgia.
What is that?
Requested
What is the Post? What is the Post of Georgia, please?
The Post of Georgia is the Peace Officer Standard Training Division. I have reached out to them and spoke with Ryan Powell. He asked to hear my story. I told him about it. He apologized on behalf of Whitfield County Sheriff's Department, the sheriff, and also the officer, because he said that is not how these officers are to be trained. He gave me a Jill Perry, Perry, email, and asked me to reach out to her demanding the information on de-escalation training that these officers are mandated to take every year. And so that was mailed out to me yesterday, and I should get that sometime next week, as well as I sent a certified letter to Whitfield County Sheriff's Department at 805 Professional Boulevard in Dalton, requesting and demanding all of the evidence or any type of anything that pertains to Angie Rebecca Lowry that is open record. And I've asked for them to submit that to me within 3 days of the letter, which I sent that out on 8/8 of this year. So I'm just patiently waiting.
Well, what I want my listener to hear in this story about from Constance Jiles is her vigor and her indignation. And Constance, I'd say you are a representative, as you claim to be a representative of the people, because you're a victim, it seems, of routine, ordinary, humdrum, so police activity, deputy activity, and you're injured by these accusations. Of course, the state of Georgia, in its charges, claims that it somehow is been injured by you and what you did. That's always what the state of Georgia versus Constance Jiles is, that the state claims to be a victim and claims to have suffered some kind of injury of unknown quality or quantity to its peace and dignity from what you did in your own house, talking to this Deputy Lieutenant Lowry. And what I want the listener to consider is notice her making a record of all encounters. And Constance, you seem to be very social media savvy, and you're making Facebook posts of these encounters when you go to the clerk's office. You have a record of that, and then you post it. And so you have nothing really is done in secret here. You want everything to be in the open. You want there to be full disclosure of the state's activities, especially since you are being injured by them and your rights are being threatened. You have a criminal charge against you. Somehow you're made to look like the criminal. And exactly. Because you know that you're not, you're keeping record of all your activities, and all that's really good for affidavits, because when you go before a judge, you can say, well, Your Honor, you can maybe get the thing dismissed for lack of discovery. You've been in good faith making demands for evidence, and you haven't gotten it all. And how can you possibly make any kind of plea, whether guilty or not guilty, in that first hearing if you don't have all the evidence? And that's why I think you're right to front end load the project. It's a project. It's taking time away from RotoPro's plumbing business, LLC, your family's plumbing business, where of course you're an essential player. But you want to know what they've got, and so in this meeting, do you think that they're going to want to see all your videos, Constance?
I'm not sure if they are or not, and I mean at this point, I'm not willing to show them anything for the fact of the matter that they are the ones who brought these charges against me. Like I said, I've not brought these charges against myself. They did it to me, so it's their due. They have to present this to me. They have to present what evidence that they have against me, so I can, defend myself at the first court appearance. It's bizarre. I also have statements too from all of the witnesses that were there and present on July 15th as well.
And your older daughters wrote affidavits. Are these statements that you're going to have them notarize, or is it just handwritten statements without notarization?
It is handwritten. It is handwritten statements. I'm not sure if I need to get it notarized or not. If I do, it's not a big issue. That can be done as well. But it's kind of funny that Kayla Giles' statement is missing in the police report under additional names listed, incident report for the witnesses. Everyone else's name is listed but Kayla Giles's, and this sorry, I'm looking at.
Well, yeah, Kayla's your eldest daughter, is that right? She's 21 or so, 20 years old.
Kayla's the second to oldest. Yes.
Okay, and how old is she?
She's 20.
Well, that's important to have what the statement she gave to the officer. That needs to be part of the evidence that you get back from the officer, because that's their evidence base, and you want to discover that they have it. And here, it probably is something in favor of your position, and you're saying that it's not part of the evidence. But I think you're right to press the sheriff's department and the DA's office for this evidence, because that is something that was given initially to Lieutenant Lowry.
Correct. And I've been doing that all week. From the 6th to now, they know where I stand. And like I said, this Clay Pangle, Pangle, captain up there at Whitfield County Sheriff's Department, kept telling me and my daughters that it's in evidence. It's in evidence. Okay, well, that's great. I'm glad that it's in evidence, but it needs to also be on this police report, her name, as she did write and give a verbal statement, and it's not there. So they're not doing their jobs correctly. And, I'm going to continue to fight for we the people. It's not just about me and my family. This is happening too many times to too many people, and it's got to stop. It's happened to minor children age 14 in their own home.
Well, what are people telling you who have heard about your story, Constance? Are they agreeing with you, or are they simply saying to you, Constance, look, just get real and comply. Just comply and everything will be okay, and just plead guilty? What do they say?
It's funny that you asked that. I have my Class A CDL license, and I have my instructor that has commented numerous times on my post stating that, well, if I would have just complied with her and done as she said, none of this would have happened. But what people fail to understand is that's my right. I don't have to talk to somebody. You know, I was a caller. I was a victim here, and I called 911 for help. If you have an attitude and you don't want to do your job properly and professionally, I'm not going to give you my time and day to speak to you. That's my given right. So he, on the other hand, does not think that I'm doing things right. He thinks that I should just lay down in front of this train and get ran over, but I beg to differ with him as well. But he is the only one that has really spoke up and said that I'm in the wrong. Everyone else, you know, has been telling me that I'm more courageous than them, that they back me 100%, and if the DA wants to take this all the way to court, then we're going to fill the courtrooms with all the, you know, supporters. I'm the voice of everybody, I guess.
Well, listen, thank you for joining us, Constance Jiles in Whitfield County. Thank you very much for talking with my listener and me here on the David Tullis Show. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
David Tullis, Nougat Radio.
3, 2, 1.
Chattanooga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4. 92.7 FM's news now.
Detectives in Bradley County say they tried to pull over a minivan on APD 40 because the driver was wanted for a series of burglaries in town. Deputies say instead of pulling over, he tried to speed off, even pulling into oncoming traffic.